Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Sri Shimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Sri Shimada's Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki. Ananta Guri Vaishnavrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki. Ganga Jamuna Maya Ki. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Harinam Sankirtana Ki. Brihat Madanga Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 7th chapter, text 32. Praja upadravam alakshya loka vyatikaram cha matam cha vasudevasya sanjahara Arjuna Dvayam Prajopadravyam Alakshya Loka Vyatikaram Chatam Matam cha vasudevasya Sanjahar Arjuna Dvayam Prajopadravyam Alakshya Loka Vyatikaram Chatam Matam cha vasudevasya Sanjahar Arjuna Dvayam. Others. Vaishnavis. Praja, the people in general. Upadravyam, disturbance. Alakshya, having seen it. Loka, the planets. Vyatikaram, destruction. Cha, also. Tam, that. Matam cha, and the opinion. Vasudevasya, of Vasudev, Sri Krishna. Sanjahara, retracted. Arjuna, Dvayam, both the weapons. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace of the imminent destruction of the planets, let me read that again. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons, as Lord Sri Krishna desired. Purport. The theory that the modern atomic bomb explosions can annihilate the world is childish imagination. First of all, the atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. And secondly, ultimately, it all rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord, because without His will or sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. It is foolish also to think that natural laws are ultimately powerful. Material nature's laws works under the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says there that the natural laws work under His supervision. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of teeny politicians. Lord Sri Krishna desired that the weapons released by both Droni and Arjuna can be withdrawn. Lord Sri Krishna desired that the weapons released both by Droni, that's Ashvatthama, and Arjuna be withdrawn, and it was carried out by Arjuna at once. Similarly, there are many agents of the all-powerful Lord, and by His will only can one execute what he desires. Om Aganatamandasha Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshudan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gudave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupakadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 26, Krishna says, Mam chayo vyabhichadena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatichaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That if one engages in full devotional service and doesn't fall down in any circumstance, one at once transcends the three modes of material nature and becomes situated on the platform of Brahman. Okay? When one is situated on the platform of Brahman, what one experiences is described in chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita, text 54, I believe. Yeah, 54, where Krishna says, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakankshati. The verse goes on, Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Padam. But those first two lines, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. When you get situated on the Brahman or the spiritual platform, then you're Prasanatma. Prasanatma means always joyful. That's the nature of the soul. Right? It's always joyful. It's eternal, full of knowledge, and full of ananda. See? So when you get onto the Brahman platform or the spiritual platform, you experience prasanatma. You're always joyful. And nasochati, nakankshati. There's no lamenting. Sochati means lamenting over material things. There's no material lamentation, and there's no kankshati. There's no material hankering. See? So that's a good place to be. Okay? But it gets better. Krishna goes on to explain in the next verse, 1855, he says, Bhakti, well, actually, the rest of the translation is he says, he sees all living beings as equal, and in that position he could engage in my devotional service. So then in the next verse, Krishna says, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chatsmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. That if one engages in my devotional service after having come to the Brahman platform like that, as a result of engaging in devotional service, practicing, trying to be engaged in devotional service, then one vishate tad anantaram. You enter into the spiritual world. You go back home, back to Godhead. See? So that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do. We want to engage in the full devotional service without falling down in any circumstance, so we can come to the spiritual platform, and from the spiritual platform further engage in devotional service so that we're eligible, qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. If you're a really staunch follower of Lord Chaitanya, then Lord Chaitanya prayed, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Ba Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishvare Bhavatsad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twayi. That I have no desire to accumulate wealth. I don't desire beautiful women. I don't want any number of followers. Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki. All I want is your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So we're not going to split hairs. Either one is okay. If you're in the camp of, I know Archita always preaches, don't, just go back to Godhead. Go back to Godhead. Don't think about staying around here in this material world. That's certainly, a correct Siddhanta, philosophical understanding. And Lord Chaitanya did pray like that all I want is your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So, and Prabhupada, when he talks about that, he makes the point that he's not even praying for liberation. He's not even praying for, getting free from the cycle of birth and death. He just wants pure devotional service, birth after birth. So this should be really what we're aspiring for. This is what being a member, a devotee in the Krishna consciousness movement means. To be that you got your pedal to the metal, trying to do that, trying to achieve that, you see? And we should, see for preaching purposes, to attract people to Krishna consciousness, sometimes we don't, I won't say water it down, but sometimes we do soften things up a little bit. We present Krishna consciousness in such a way that, it's okay to do this, and it's okay to do that, and it's okay to be like this a bit and be like that a bit, as long as you're Krishna conscious, and that's good too. And that's good. That's, we have to, try to not water down, but we have to try to sometimes present the message in such a way that to attract people, to help them. We don't want to scare people away. Or, if you have them feel discouraged or disheartened, this is going to be too hard. This is going to be too, no, I can't do this. No. So, but for our own understanding, we should be very clear that for our own understanding, the correct understanding is that anything short of using every second of your time and every ounce of your energy to try to achieve pure devotional service in this lifetime is falling short of the proper ideal standard. You understand what I'm saying? We should be using every moment of our time and every bit of our energy to try to become pure devotees in this lifetime. And everything else is a waste of time. Anything less than that means you're wasting your time. And that's supported in this Bhagavatam that we're reading right now. We just read it in the second chapter. Dharma svanustita pumsam viksvakshenukata no palayad ridhiratim shrama evahi kevalam. That anything you do that doesn't provoke an attraction, that doesn't inspire you to get more into devotional service in Krishna consciousness is shrama evahi kevalam. It's a useless waste of time. Who said that? That would be Sutta Goswami, right? Sutta Goswami speaking. So it's authoritative. That's the real standard, and we should always remember that. That's where we got to be like that. And it's important for us to to try to be on that platform and try to engage people, and bring them up to that platform. Before I start speaking about today's verse, one other point is that, the expression charity begins at home. That's everybody's heard that. So imagine if Prabhupada came here today, visited New Dwarka, okay? He'd be happy. I think he'd be really pleased by a lot of the things he's seeing. But I think one thing he would definitely raise a question about, he would say, oh, because it's been a long time since he's been here, say, so all these buildings, these are all owned by us? From the beginning, from Venice and Watsika, all the way 1/3 down, down the block. You say, yes, Srila Prabhupada, they're all owned by us. Oh, so who lives in them? The devotees, Srila Prabhupada. Oh, so then Prabhupada, if Prabhupada was here right now, I say, okay, so many buildings, so many apartments, and how come so few people here? You say, there's a bit of a disconnect there. We got to, I think we have to, charity begins at home. We have to encourage people who are living in this community to be more actively participate in devotional service. And you got to pray to Krishna for the intelligence to do that, because you don't want to come across as obnoxious, self-righteous, or a nuisance. But the fact of the matter is, this community is for practicing devotional service. You see, it's an honor and a privilege to live in this place, on this block. And anybody who lives on this block should be, once again, in a nice way, should be made to feel that, yeah, come on, I got to pull up my socks and do more. I got to be more involved. I got to participate more. This is it. It's an incredible opportunity. And it's like in the Bhagavatam, and I think it's in the 4th canto, Narada Muni's preaching to Dhruva Maharaj, and he tells him, for people who are more advanced than you should serve them, glorify them and serve them. People on the same level, you have to make friends with them. And people who you can understand are on a lower level of understanding, you have to encourage them. So it's bona fide. That's an important thing to do. We have to try to encourage people to become more Krishna conscious. It's an important thing. Okay, so now today's verse. Any questions about what I've said so far? Everybody in total agreement? I hope. Yeah. Yeah, right. If Prabhupada was here, they would come. You see? Right. Okay, so now getting to today's verse. Yeah, please. Yep. Okay. That's explained in the 3rd canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, where in the teachings of Kapila to his mother Devahuti, he explains that there's pure devotional service, as Amala Bhakti Maharaj and I mentioned, and then there's devotional service contaminated by the modes of goodness and the mode of passion, mode of ignorance. If you're performing devotional service in the mode of goodness, that means you're performing devotional service with the motive of wanting liberation. Okay, that's considered devotion, the contamination of the mode of goodness. In the mode of passion, one wants opulence and fame as a result of performing devotional service. And in the mode of ignorance, one wants, one is envious. I can't remember definitely one wants comfort. And it's like, performing devotional service for being in the comfort zone. I have to reread that one and try to, remember exactly what it said. But pure devotional service is when you're just doing it just for the pleasure of your spiritual master and the pleasure of Krishna. No motive, no ulterior motive, no motive other than, pure devotional service is when you're performing your service with no motive other than pleasing your spiritual master and pleasing Krishna. The good news is that if you're not on that platform right away, just keep engaging in devotional service in whatever mode of nature you're engaging in it, and you will become purified. Akama sarva kamava moksha kama udardi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. That whether this is coming up now in the 2nd canto, 3rd chapter of the Bhagavatam, here, 10th verse. I guess by that time, Sukadev Goswami is explaining that whether one is akama, no material desire, sarva kama, all material desires, moksha karma, desiring liberation, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, one should engage in devotional service, and then, all desires will be fulfilled. In other words, you become purified. Krishna is like the sun. The sun is prophylactic and antiseptic. Prophylactic means Krishna doesn't become polluted by our approaching him with the wrong motivation, but we become purified. So, if you're something other than a pure devotee at the moment, don't freak out. Don't think it's cool. It's okay, but don't freak out either. Just keep engaging in devotional service. Keep trying. Keep coming to the morning program. Keep chanting 16 real rounds. Real rounds means that you're trying to hear him. Even when you're trying to hear, you're not necessarily going to hear perfectly and properly. But if you're not trying, then for sure you're not. So 16 rounds where you're really trying to hear the mantra, attending the program, attending the class, reading the books, doing your service, and just keep doing that, and you're getting purified. That's what Prabhupada has taught us, And then we'll come to sooner or later, we're going to come to the platform where we're doing what we're doing with the, just with the desire to please our spiritual master and please Krishna. Is that okay? Did that kind of answer it? Okay, go ahead.
In other words, it's not enough to simply just do it. We need to do it with feeling, with thought, with intensity, with awareness, and with an understanding of how low, how small, how insignificant, and how fallen we are. With that consciousness, we can go up. If we simply think we are okay, everything stays pretty much the same. Okay?
Thank you. That was good. Nice addition. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to go into the verse here. So Prabhupada says in the first sentence here, says, the theory that the modern atomic bomb explosions can annihilate the world is childish imagination. Okay, so let's analyze this. First of all, Prabhupada wrote this, I guess, he started writing the Srimad Bhagavatam in 1959. At least, yeah, he did. 1959. I checked this on the biography on Krishna.com last night. And he had the first three volumes finished by 1965. When he came over to America, he came over with the first 3 volumes. So this is the first volume. So there's a good chance this was finished 59, 60, 61, whatever, some earlier than 65. So he's talking about modern atomic bomb explosions cannot annihilate the world, and okay. So I guess by annihilate, Prabhupada's meaning blow to smithereens, and atomic bombs aren't powerful enough to blow the whole world to smithereens. But first of all, I have to say that atomic bombs are passé; they're old. It's not the most powerful weapon now. And it hasn't been for about 50 years. Within about 20 years of the invention of the atomic bomb, they came up with a lot more powerful bombs. A period of 20 years, the weapon technology became very much more advanced to the point where, well, I forget what year it was about 45 perhaps. They dropped that bomb on, the 2 bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Little boy and fat man, okay? And but that was what, 1945, 44, 45, something like that. And but now they have, even for the last 50 years, they have nuclear bombs. And in 1961, October 30th, 1961, USSR dropped a test bomb. It was a test called the Tsar Bomba, which was a nuclear weapon, and it was over 3,000 times more powerful than the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the equivalent of 57 million tons of TNT. Now that bomb also didn't, they didn't even let it hit the ground. They exploded it at 13,000 feet above sea level. They dropped it from 37 and they exploded it. But I saw a video of it in preparation for this class, and it was like scary just watching it. But it didn't blow the world to smithereens. This Prabhupada's statement is holding true here. It says, first of all, atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. It seems like it is powerful enough, though, to end human life, or life as we know it, on this planet. That bomb that's the most powerful bomb ever exploded. It's way more powerful than even bombs the United States have tested, like 3, 4, 5 times more powerful or whatever. And I did some further research, and I found out that altogether there's 15,000 nuclear warheads. This is, I forget what the organization was called. Something, some organization that keeps track of all the weapons throughout the world. And they said there's 15,000 nuclear warheads. Of those, only 3,000 approximately. 3,000 are loaded and ready to go. About 1,500 by the Americans and 1,500 by the USSR. They're actually all set and ready to go with the press of a button. Then there's a large number that are stockpiled, and a large number that's, the remainder are just getting ready to be taken apart, but they're still there. So, if all those were to be used, as I said, I don't think it would blow the world to smithereens, as Prabhupada annihilate or destroy the entire world. But I think it is sufficient that it would end life as we know it on the planet for perhaps quite some time. You see? But the second point Prabhupada's making here is perhaps the more important point, which is that he says, secondly, ultimately it rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord, because without his will, the sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. And he makes this point further on in the purport. He says that, here we go. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of any teeny politicians. So in other words, human beings may be thinking that, we're in control. We're going to determine whether, the world goes on or not. No, you're not. No, you're not. You don't have that kind of control. First off, we know from our philosophy that people might think they're in control of what's going on, but they're not. They're under the control of the 3 modes of material nature. Okay, I'm going to quote a couple verses to support that, and then I'm going to give an excerpt from a lecture Prabhupada gave where he talks about that. So, first verse is Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sani Vishto Matak Smriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha. Krishna is seated within everyone's heart, and from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. In the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that Krishna controls the psychic movements of all living entities. So, as people are thinking like, I'm going to do this. You're under the control of the modes of material nature. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vamudhatma kartahamiti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, he thinks himself the doer of activities which are actually carried out by the 3 modes of material nature. See? So in other words, people, if Krishna doesn't want it to happen, then they won't use those bombs. If Krishna wants it to happen, they'll use those bombs. It's Rake Krishna Madeke, Made Krishna Rakeke. If Krishna wants to kill you, nobody can protect you. If Krishna wants to protect you, nobody can kill you. If Krishna wants those bombs dropped, nothing's going to stop him from, using them. If Krishna doesn't want those bombs dropped, they might get all huff and all agitated and threaten each other, but they're not going to do it because ultimately Krishna's in control. They're not in control. See? Although they think they're in control, they're really not in control. Here's an interesting, I got an excerpt from a lecture here, which I think helps kind of throw some further light on that particular point. Prabhupada gave this lecture here in Los Angeles in 1974, and at one point in the lecture he said, if you make a show of brahmachari, so-called, or if you make a show of so-called brahmachari, so-called grihasta, or so-called sannyasi, then you will fall down. Then you must fall down. Krishna will not tolerate a defaulter, a pseudo-devotee. Maya is very strong. Immediately capture him. And then this is Maya speaking. Come on, why are you here? Why are you in this society? Get out. See? So the point is, so Prabhupada's saying that happens. And so you might, upon hearing that, you might say, well, I've never seen that happen. I've never seen. But oh yes, you have. Especially those of us who've been around longer. We've seen that happen. But it happens in a subtle way. See, Maya is so strong, so powerful, and so intelligent that she gets people out, and she doesn't even have to come and kick them out. They leave. See, if say somebody's offensive or somebody's deviating, they're not following properly, they lose the desire to be here, and then they go. And they're thinking, I'm leaving, but they're not leaving. Krishna's, what I just read here is what's happening. Maya's saying, you're a defaulter. Come on, why are you here? Why are you in this society? Get out. But the person thinks they're leaving. You see? The person thinks, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm going. But really what's happening is that. So in the same way, these people, they're thinking like, oh, we're going to do this. They're not in control. They're not even in control of their own minds. You see? They're not controlling the destiny of the whole human race or the destiny of this planet. No such thing. They're not that important. They're not that powerful. That's up to Krishna. If Krishna feels at some point that, there's so much sinful activity that's been performed now, and I've given these people so much opportunity, so much chance to turn around and, start using the human form of life properly. I've had it. I'm fed up. Okay, now, then it'll happen. And it doesn't have to happen by, those weapons either. There's many different ways that Krishna can do something that would end life as we know it here on the planet. For instance, this most powerful bomb I was telling you about, that Tsara bomba, was only 1/4 as powerful as the volcano that took place in Krakatoa back in 1883. That was so. Krishna doesn't need human beings to do that. Although he sometimes does work that way. Prabhupada tells this story about the teacher who is dealing with these children who are very misbehaved in the class. And, it wasn't just one, it was like a whole bunch of them, or at least a couple. So he got one boy to stand up. These two boys are misbehaving very badly. So one boy stands up, and the other boy stands up, and the teacher says, okay, I want you to hold his ear. So the one boy holds the other boy's ear, and he says, now I want you to hold his ear, grab his ear. And he says, okay, now pull. Now I want you to pull on his ear. So the boy pulls on his ear, and the other boy, of course, pulls on his ear to retaliate. And then the other boy pulls harder on his ear, you see. So the teacher did nothing. The teacher did nothing. The teacher's having them punish each other, you see. So Krishna can work like that. Krishna doesn't have to lift a finger. Krishna can just have it so that, human beings are punishing each other. Of course, they're already doing that. But Krishna can do it through other methods. Krishna could do it through, as I said, a huge volcano if he wanted to. There's so many different ways. I looked up, did some research about different catastrophes that could happen that could destroy the whole world. A high energy solar flare, an asteroid could hit the planet. When the sun expands at the time, well, that's the scientists say it's about 7 billion years away. But anyway, a gamma ray burst can, there's different ways. Krishna doesn't have to rely upon human beings to drop bombs to mess up the whole, to destroy the world, so to speak. But anyway, the real message is that here's this fellow Droni, Ashvatthama, and he's released this nuclear weapon. And what is the result? First of all, he wasn't successful. He didn't achieve his objective, and by going against the will of Krishna, the will of the Supreme, what happens? He gets punished. He gets punished. How is Ashvatthama punished eventually? He was. Yeah. So, you know, you lose. You don't win, you lose. I mean, you can't, if you try to like defy the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, live in rebellion to His will, you're just going to lose. It's just like even, Monday night. Imagine you here in this world, you get a parking ticket and you decide, I'm not going to pay that parking ticket. Okay, so then the fine doubles, and then you say, well, I'm not going to pay that. And then one day you're driving around and you get get pulled over by the police because you went through a stop sign or something like that, and they check and they say, oh, you have these tickets that you haven't paid. You got to pay them, and you got to appear in court now to pay them. So they give you, an issue. You got to appear in the court, and then you don't. This is how it works. You don't show up, so then you get an FTA, failure to appear. See? Then the next time you get picked up, they don't just issue you a ticket. They take you in custody. And then you're in custody. It goes on and on and on. See, so the more you try to, live in rebellion or defiance to the will of the Supreme, the more you're just going to get punished. So that's what's happened to this Ashvatthama here. He thought he could defy Krishna, and he must have understood something about who Krishna was. I mean, his father was Dronacharya, but he's just wound up getting very badly punished. So in the same way, it's a losing thing. We should definitely not try to rebel or live in defiance or rebellion to the will of Krishna, but just the opposite. Just be very submissive and compliant to the will of Krishna. That's the the path to success, the path to going back home, back to Godhead. Okay, anyway, I've gone over time, so I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah. Yeah, you gotta get the microphone. Go ahead, preach your question.
You were speaking about how Maya kicks people out. Just wondering how one can protect oneself.
Trinadapi sunichena tarodapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. And once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself low in the straw, low in the straw in the street, be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and offering all respects to others and not expecting any respect in return. Because there's obviously more things one could say, but that's a really important one. If people could just understand that, you wouldn't have this whole problem of nations being at each other's throat and threatening and like that. It's just that's a very important instruction right there. Yeah. Yeah, but I couldn't rattle them off for you. Not off the top of my head. Can somebody help us? Where are the 26 qualities of a devotee? I know it's in a book. Satsvarup Maharaj wrote a book, 26 qualities of a devotee. But does anybody know where they're listed? They're listed in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Okay, well then the question that I have
Sure.
is if somebody is masquerading as a Vaishnava but isn't necessarily a Vaishnava and not following the 26 qualities of the devotee, would it still be called Vaishnava Aparad if you offended them and told them to leave?
Well, it's probably better, since you're asking the question, I'll answer it. Probably better you bring it to the attention of somebody else and let them evaluate the situation and see if that's what's called for. They might agree with your judgment, they might not. You see, they might size it up a different way. So if you're being disturbed by the behavior of somebody who's supposed to be a Vaishnava and you don't feel that they're properly behaving as a Vaishnava, then bring it to the attention of the temple authorities. Lodge your complaint and let them deal with it.
Well, mostly I just want them to leave me alone because Rabindranath says that you can avoid people.
Yeah, but if that person's, say, making it hard for you to even avoid them, lodge a complaint, bring it to the attention of the temple authorities, and they'll deal with it for you. That's what they're there for. Yep. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.